Sarah never believed in ghosts. She scoffed at haunted houses, dismissing them as childish pranks. So when her friends dared her to spend a night in the abandoned Blackwood Manor, she laughed. The old house stood alone at the edge of town, shrouded in sinister rumors. Locals whispered of tragic deaths and restless spirits, but Sarah remained unconvinced. She saw it as a chance to prove her skepticism right. Little did she know she was about to face a terror she couldn't explain. The sun began to set as Sarah approached the manor. The sky turned a fiery red, casting long, ominous shadows across the overgrown lawn. A shiver ran down her spine, a primal instinct warning her of danger. But Sarah, emboldened by her skepticism, ignored it. She reached for the rusted iron gate, its hinges groaning in protest as if warning her to turn back. Sarah stepped inside the manor, her breath catching in her throat. The air was thick with the smell of decay and dust, heavy with an unseen presence. A musty silence hung in the air, broken only by the creaking of the floorboards beneath her feet. She shone her flashlight around the foyer, its beam illuminating cobwebs and faded grandeur. A chill ran down her spine, but Sarah attributed it to the dampness of the old house. She ventured further into the house, each step echoing in the oppressive silence. The darkness seemed to press in on her, suffocating her with its intensity. She could hear the faint rustling of unseen things, like whispers carried on the wind. A sense of unease settled upon her, a feeling that she was not alone. The deeper Sarah ventured into the manor, the more oppressive the atmosphere became. The air grew heavy, making it difficult to breathe. She could feel eyes on her, watching her every move. Shadows danced at the edge of her flashlight's beam, taking on sinister shapes that sent shivers down her spine. She tried to rationalize her fear, but the house had an undeniable energy, a darkness that seemed to seep into her very being. She reached the grand staircase, its once polished wood now rotting and decayed. Each step creaked ominously under her weight, the sound echoing through the silent house like a mournful cry. As she ascended, she noticed the portraits lining the walls, their eyes seeming to follow her every move. Their painted smiles seemed to twist into grimaces in the flickering beam of her flashlight. The attic door was slightly ajar, a sliver of moonlight illuminating the dust motes dancing in the air. Sarah's heart pounded in her chest. She could hear faint whispers coming from within, whispers that seemed to beckon her closer. She knew she should turn back, that the whispers were just the wind whistling through the cracks in the old house. But a strange compulsion drew her forward, urging her to uncover the secrets hidden within the attic's darkness. She pushed the door open slowly, her flashlight beam cutting through the darkness. The attic was crammed with old furniture, covered in dust sheets that resembled ghostly shrouds. The whispers grew louder, swirling around her like a malevolent wind. Then, in the far corner of the attic, she saw it, a figure shrouded in shadows, its eyes glowing with an unnatural light. Section 5. A glimpse into the abyss. Terror gripped Sarah's heart. The figure stood motionless, its glowing eyes fixed on her with an intensity that sent chills down her spine. It was tall and gaunt, its form shifting and swirling in the shadows. She couldn't make out any features, just the outline of a humanoid shape and those piercing, malevolent eyes. The whispers reached a fever pitch, swirling around her like a vortex of fear. For a moment, Sarah was paralyzed with terror. She couldn't breathe, couldn't scream, couldn't move. The figure took a step towards her, its form solidifying as it emerged from the shadows. It was then that Sarah's primal instincts took over. The fear that had been building inside her exploded and she turned and ran. Section 6. Panic sets in. Sarah fled through the attic, her heart pounding in her ears. She could hear the figure moving behind her, its heavy footsteps shaking the floorboards. Panic surged through her, urging her to go faster, to escape the nightmare that was unfolding around her. She stumbled over a rocking horse, its hollow eyes seeming to mock her terror. She burst out of the attic, slamming the door shut behind her. But the figure was strong, its force rattling the door handle. Sarah fumbled with the latch, her fingers trembling uncontrollably. She could hear the figure's ragged breathing on the other side of the door, its frustration palpable. Section 7. Trapped. Sarah raced down the stairs, her lungs burning with exertion. She had to get out, had to escape the clutches of this haunted house. But her escape route was cut short. The front door, which she had left ajar, was now slammed shut. A cold draft snaked its way through the house, carrying with it the scent of decay and despair. She rattled the doorknob, but it wouldn't budge. It was as if the house itself was holding her captive, preventing her from escaping its clutches. She was trapped, alone with the entity that lurked within the shadows, its presence growing stronger with each passing moment. Desperation clawed at Sarah. She ran from room to room searching for another way out, but every door was locked, every window nailed shut. The house had become her prison, a labyrinth of fear with no escape. The whispers followed her, taunting her, reminding her that she was trapped. She could hear the figure moving through the house, its heavy footsteps echoing through the halls. It was getting closer, drawn to her terror like a moth to a flame. Sarah knew she had to do something, anything, to survive this night. Suddenly the noise stopped. The footsteps, the whispers, the feeling of dread that had permeated the house, all vanished. An eerie silence descended, heavier and more unnerving than the noises that preceded it. Sarah stood in the center of the parlor, her heart pounding in her chest. She strained her ears, listening for any sign of the entity, but there was nothing. The silence stretched on, each second feeling like an eternity. It was as if the house itself was holding its breath, waiting for the opportune moment to strike. The hairs on the back of Sarah's neck stood on end. She knew, with a certainty that chilled her to the bone, that she was not alone. The following morning, Sarah's friends arrived at the manor, their laughter echoing through the still morning air. They had dismissed her fears as a prank, a way to scare them off. But as they approached the house, their laughter died in their throats. The front door stood wide open, revealing an eerie darkness within. They cautiously entered the house, calling out Sarah's name. Their voices echoed through the empty halls unanswered. They searched every room, every nook and cranny, but there was no sign of their friend. The only evidence they found was Sarah's broken flashlight, lying on the floor of the attic, its beam pointing towards a corner shrouded in shadows. The whispers had ceased, but the feeling of dread lingered, clinging to the air like cobwebs. Sarah was gone, vanished without a trace, leaving behind more questions than answers. Was it all in her head, a figment of her imagination fueled by fear and darkness? Or had Sarah stumbled upon something sinister, something that lurked within the depths of Blackwood Manor? Something that claimed her for its own? The truth, lost somewhere in the shadows of that haunted house, remained a chilling mystery,